We actually all
First.
I thought I read somebody online only, and when I missed the deadline, I'm like,
That's what
okay.
I can see.
You can buy them online. There was a, you could go online.
Yeah, no, I said you can.
Do it cheaper.
Now, the other
But
conversation.
that came off to
And they
Yes.
said that.
15.
And I don't know that.
There were 81 people that took advantage of it.
That's it?
Nursing staff.
Then they're complaining because
They all have the job, but.
they
but he
didn't
doesn't
take
get
advantage of it.
You know,
because they-
I could not believe that. when you said, well,
Well, now you're paying $5 more. And
That's an old
And then
age
you gotta
for everybody if you're a
also
thinker.
see
You're
Right.
right.
It's
Check
just
the
right.
fee, you know.
And again,
Because everybody's charging it.
I should have told my building on some sort of.
I want to see it.
I said, why can't you
Justice
just?
right past
the
the
rest
Yeah.
of it
No,
like that?
it's
Well,
And then
you
maybe,
know,
you know,
if-
just for the
if there are
drivers,
people
let
that are
everybody
trying-
else still be down.
We're
And
just
then
gonna
spread out
rely
the stuff, let the rest be down there, and
But,
whatever,
you
and then,
know, if you
spread
have
it
a
out,
tree.
and then when that guy that drives to go
and
there,
you
he
had
comes out and
across
picks
the
everybody up.
county road,
It's no big deal.
100
I
feet
mean,
down.
everything.
There's ways.
I took it on
Yeah,
storm.
I mean, we're
And it
talking
needs
about
to be on a site
1
where you
mile
can have
difference.
clear
for
vision.
everybody.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
You know, but that's a whole different.
Yeah.
And this idea of training all down to the rules. I mean, just like-
And I don't like the way he comes in to church.
I have
more pistols.
Guns
and he-
shows up at church in full uniform, bulletproof vest, guns on his side and walks up.
And he'll sit there and he'll tap the guns as he's walking down the aisle and give everybody the stare down like who's he
Yeah,
investigating?
yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Who is this?
Well, you should check and see how often he's actually on beat.
That's real good. Where is I?
And why he moved his office to downstairs. I asked them at City Hall, and he says, well, there's so much unrest with police department. We didn't want our guy sitting in front of glass windows. Come on. I don't think Algoma had the issue that they thought somebody was gonna shoot through the city hall window. Can't you take over the Algoma PD again? Please.
Oh, better days, better days.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and, I mean, Oklahoma was a wonderful community. It would be, you know, I mean, I thoroughly enjoy going out there and speaking. and
I'm
visiting,
good
just
with
like I did
that,
part of the
but,
county. But the configuration which we did it, I would never.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know, this idea of just management, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I'm glad we tried it, you know, but
Yeah.
it really, the model is what, you know, Brown County does with Bellevue, Denmark, Alloway, you know, you contract, it's, that way you've got a solid chain of command, you've got solid accountability, it's not, you know, two parallel lanes of
Yeah.
who's making the
Right.
call here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with Brown County and Bellevue, Brown County just patrols Bellevue.
Right, they contract out, so they basically take a Brown County squad, they put the name Bellevue on the
Bellevue
side
on
of
it,
it.
and it's still Brown County
Yep.
officers, Brown County. So
Yeah, it gives a consistency.
Yeah. I was just talking about the chief that we have now. He comes to St. Mary's on Sunday morning, full uniform, vest, guns on the side, and he walks down up to
That would be my
community
only
with two
drawback.
guns.
It's gonna be
and
the,
giving everybody
it's
the
gonna be
stare down
the
like this as he's
discussion
walking
on,
out. And he did it
is it this Monday?
a couple Sundays in a row.
Yes,
And it's
I
like,
did see
don't
that,
do
yeah.
that.
So this Monday, we're gonna be talking about it.
Oh, I saw your email on the soccer
Well, I'm glad
association.
it's coming up.
Gotta be discussed now.
Anything I can do to help. Anything I can do. When I join one more thing, my wife's gonna.
that's just it.
But yeah,
Come on,
anything I can do.
Come
to
on.
help.
We have 6 board members and one who's still help with the fields, but they used to have 8 and 10.
And I loved, I always did the fields with family. So I don't mind doing the
Okay.
fields and everything, but I am doing golf in June, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, so that just kind of takes me out.
There are some
of
strong
it.
points.
Other than that,
Well, this is my first year through it, so I'm not sure what,
Tournaments are still the first weekend in August?
or last in July.
Oh, okay.
Might be the first and second.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, the season wise, it's, you know, they always have a board member on site for local game days, which opens the sessions and handles other things. So when only 6 of us.
Well, they should have us maybe.
Oh, yeah, let me know, because I've hated the fields in the past.
No, why not screen
The painting on field is time consuming, but that's where they have the one volunteer, so she only be a board member, but she'll still do that.
Okay.
And she had some volunteers.
That's willing to help.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So hopefully that's taken care of. Dave got some of those big barriers for the parking lot, so hopefully that's less striping in the parking lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I heard that.
I put more barriers on the F-mark against that, rather than trying to repaint it every couple of weeks.
Right.
Yes.
Other than tournament. that's never-
Well, yeah,
Right,
Well,
ready to go.
But if you don't, it's a
I-
They scheduled originally.
There's been a point of discussion before, it was after he decided now.
I'm watching that.
In my opinion. I don't feel like I have a dog in that fight.
Eric,
We are live.
Eric, let's call it to order. Are you ready?
Yes.
Eric, just a minute show that Jeff Owenweiler is excused. What we need is an approval of the finance agenda. You all got a copy of the minutes, so if you want to do them both at once, it works for me.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as published and the minutes from February 4th.
I'll second, but I want to say that Mr. Olson's last name is spelled wrong.
Did I have an E instead of an O? Where?
Hold on, that's the unique one.
And Dover's absent.
That is wrong.
Yeah.
Dope is, yeah, dope is
That's for today. You're talking or? Yeah, I have that. I'm
Do you know
talking
how
for
to
this.
spell it, or do you need me to do it for you?
Can you send me a memo?
Well, by now, I would think there'd be enough,
Don't feel bad. Mine is always misspelled.
L-E-S-O-N?
Yeah, I had an A instead of, no, I didn't.
Two N's and a Y.
No, it was, I did an A instead of an S. They're right next to each other. So, okay.
All right, we have a motion from Tom, seconded by Virginia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Anybody else want to comment? Oh, okay. Paul, you're up.
So we'll start sales tax collected for the first month in January, 141,587, higher than usual, but again, if you remember, the last payment was a little lower than typical. I wouldn't read too much into that yet. It's 1 month's payment. And the timing of those isn't pinpoint this accurate each month. As far as the January statements, it's January, so there are no red flags. There's nothing really to discuss. It's pretty early in the year. No known requests for contingency. Again, it's pretty early in the year. I would hope we wouldn't have them yet. So what I would cover is the end of 2021. We are now just over 60 days into the following year. So now I typically stop looking at every revenue coming in, and I pick the bigger ones. And if it doesn't come in the next, before the end of March, we'll do an entry with our best estimate, and then we will close the books and move on to the audit. So I've got about 6 to 8 departments with typically grant-related items, bigger items too, where I'll have to go and check, did we submit the grant? How much are we expecting to receive? If we don't receive it, I'll book an entry with a receivable. I had, at the time of printing, I had one payable to the ADRC that's been taken care of already. And then Human Services will do the same thing. Their final reports are due in March now by 15th to 20th, somewhere in there. But once they submit those, he'll do a best conservative estimate of what the revenue is going to be. And he'll do the same thing I do, book a receivable for that. They are actually right now a little over $1 million to the good, including the Whitaker payment, which was 400 something. So they're going to have another good year. And then next month, I will have our final statements just subject to audit. And with that, I'll also have the list of carryovers I've discussed a few times. I'll bring those next month. I will be able to show the unaudited fund balances to show what levels those are at. And at that time, we also have the 2 transfer requests. One was the unused contingency. I don't have that number in front of me. And then if there's a percentage of the general fund surplus that we usually transfer to somewhere else and it's been debt, or I'm sorry, that one goes to debt. the contingency transfer would go to some place as needed. And those deeds have gone away, so that one would likely request to be going towards debt as well. So next month will be a much busier one. I have a webinar at 8:30, so I'm gonna duck out as soon as I'm done here. If there are no questions on the vendor payments or anything else, then I'm done.
Any questions at all? All right. Thank you, sir. Have a good webinar.
Well, it's our auditors. They put on good webinars and you can't beat the price.
Do they have coffee and donuts for you?
Yeah,
Virtually.
All right. You're up.
Certainly. The medical, dental, did I not give you guys overtime reports? Oh, I sent them. Okay. Which I don't have it in my packet, so I'm gonna wing it on that one. But as for medical and dental, as you can see, just the first month, usually your first couple months are a little bit under. So for medical, it's at 95%. At dental, it's at 97%. And a little odd, usually we don't have a large claimant yet in January, but we do have one. So I'm gonna guess that that was some type of event that brought that up right away. But again, just keeping everyone aware as to what's going on in that respect. And again, over time, we're at the start of the year. We don't really know until we get farther in, but as always with all of these, it's just more of a, so that way everyone can keep a status as to what's going on. I don't have any earth-shattering news to give you on any of those fronts. The only thing I can tell you is when we talked about the medical part is I did have my first health insurance plan review committee with employees. We talked about self-insured versus fully insured. If for some reason any one of you want to be part of those meetings, please feel free. We're going to have roughly about 4 to 6 of those meetings. We'll start with background, how the county compares to other counties regarding costs, then talk about what are possible options you can do that could possibly reduce health insurance claims and costs, and then finally what those financial impacts may be and what could be a possible recommendation to this committee. So that's all I have for right now, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
I
I'm
know.
going fast
Well,
here.
that might be
You're
you.
speaking quick here.
We try our best, and I would suggest doing your number 8 before number 7, so that way that's done, and whenever we're done with 7, then we're good.
And we will do
I have
that.
a question.
Yes.
Don, you said these meetings that are gonna be coming up, is that through the provider that we currently have?
Yeah, Horton helps to bring out the information, and when I say that, they're just giving information. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones that help to educate it. Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. We will go to supplemental payroll. You guys all had a chance to look at it? Yes, we're looking at them right now. He's wondering why Tom and Gary are really like the doctor. We're live. I should say. But anyways, we need a motion to accept the supplemental payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Virginia, seconded by Tom. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Motion carried. And let's go to ARPA funds, let's discuss.
Certainly. Again, just wanted to leave it as a discussion item, not there needs to be any action because we will not get our second payment until May of this year. But I had distributed the memo to everyone last month about 7 possible options, and I wasn't sure if the committee wanted to talk a little bit more about those options and where the, what do I want? Where people are kind of leaning towards what we may want to do with our funds. What I did also get from Paul is he received information from some of his fellow finance directors as to what other counties are doing with their ARPA funds. And to a large degree, it kind of runs the gamut, but and depending on the type of county it is, you have a number of the larger counties doing stuff more from a social services standpoint, whether that's homeless initiatives, whether that is trying to provide some more staff in human services, those types of things. You also had a number of them doing what I would call major building renovations. Brown County is doing a lot of HVAC replacement for a lot of their buildings. They're also doing a great deal of IT broadband projects. I did not see much of anything from an economic development or a housing standpoint, and I did not see much of anything of a brand new capital project. Instead, most of it was more of maintenance, major maintenance replacement, or some type of either program expansion or using current money, using ARPA money to supplement kind of current money, which to me kind of puts them in the gray zone from my feeling. But that's kind of where they're going with a lot of those counties. So I guess I was just trying to get a general feel from the committee as to, is there a preference? What are the pros and cons? So that way, because I am going to assume that shortly after May that this committee would like to then provide at least a little more clarity or direction as to where they want the remaining ARPA dollars to go. And with that, I'll shut up.
I think we shouldn't use the money for normal operating things in any way, because then it messes up the future budgets when we had something else pay it. So we should do it. I think it should be used more for a project or, enhancement to adding equipment or something like that, that we wouldn't normally have been able to put in a regular budget.
Well, I think the only thing we can't use it for is to pay down debt or to fund the unfunded liability and the pension. Those are the two things you can't use it for.
There's another one, but yes, predominantly yes.
So it's pretty wide open. I'm still leaning in my own mind to somehow we could pare down that cost of that proposed highway building, use some of that money to attack that project.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then how we pay for the rest, there's there's some ideas about using bug tussle money, which is already economic development money, on any debt payments that we would incur on that new building. So that's just one idea. How those numbers would work out, we have to dig in a little bit. And I think we really can't address that until we know approximately what the exact cost of that new building would be. I think we're in the process now. We're going to be meeting again on that building, maybe pare that down a little bit. So that's just one idea.
My intention would be, if I'm reelected as chair, my intention would be that our June meeting would be at the highway shop. And then people, rather than Mr. Every trying to show us pictures that capture, he could give us a whole lot better vision, and they would be able to see much better. So the project is kind of on the back burner, front burner, something like that.
I do know that on Thursday at our regular highway meeting, the gentleman that did our plan, Norman, couldn't think of his last name, is gonna be present, and he did submit some paperwork that I have, but I think we're gonna sit down as a committee and decide exactly what we're looking for and then start from there. So we're not quite there yet. But I think it can be, after Thursday, we'll have a good direction on what we want to do. Then we need to move to a phase 3 to do preliminary design costs on it or projected. So I think we can get that number down.
For what it's worth, my opinion is that if we spend the money in the county in maintenance or in spending all of it as an example for a highway shop, it's a one-time gift, never see it again. And honestly, I honestly believe if we could utilize some of this money to keep giving into the future, and by that I mean as far as grants or whatever to assist or bring in business, or even if housing projects, anything that we can get to pay a tax. And because county buildings don't pay taxes. If we hire employees, they don't pay taxes. They pay taxes only if they become an employee and they hopefully relocated. But I really honestly believe that we need to look at how we can keep this money so that it works. It's going to be a trick no matter what we do. I've been approached by a number of people already that, oh, let's go and, we need a couple $100,000 here, we need a couple $100,000 here, and I'll tell you what, they're going to start lining up because it's in every newspaper that you read. It's got some counties, Brown County was one, and they're got this project, they're going to toss this money in. And I already got an earful at Winter Park last Sunday, and the Sunday before I got an earful from some other people, and goodness, I think we're going to see a whole lot of people lining up, want some gifts. And simple. I want to see the money used so that it goes into pay tax.
Buildings don't pay taxes, but they sure do take taxes.
Say what?
They sure do take taxes. They take tax money. And a highway shop may not pay tax, but if you have to pay that completely out of the county coffers, it'll take a lot of taxes.
Oh, I agree with you, Jen. I completely agree with you. We're going to pay interest, we're going to pay taxes. But I think that to use all of it as county projects, I think is wrong. I think some of this, if there's a business that needs some assistance to expand, to build, we certainly want to look at that. And I'll just leave it there.
Right now, Bailey Regional Planning has all kinds of things that are doing that for people. I mean, I know that I talked to Cindy at the group, and she said they've got this big pot of money and people aren't even asking for it. It'll give you, $10,000 toward your first year's worth of rent if you show you're a new business. And or if you move into a bigger building that's only 100 square feet bigger than you already have, they'll give you the money. So I think there's a lot of options out there for the new ones. And I think fixing highway stuff, our roads and parks and all that are in good shape, we're making a lot of money off sales tax now that everybody said we were never gonna make anything out of it. And I think the more we can make Kewaunee County attractive to others, the sales tax will grow and maybe people will relocate here because they like the area. So infrastructure, I think, is a good thing to do.
If I may weigh in a little bit, and I agree with, as a good typical bureaucrat, I agree with both sides as to what's being said here. And I think I've said this before, is that, yes, if I, and I think this committee would agree, I don't want to speak for them, but let's say that we did not have the capital project needs that we have of a highway shop and a jail, that we would probably be having more discussion regarding economic development and housing, because then that would make potential, that would make revenue for us. And I agree with that. So I'm going to stay with John's here for a sec. I agree with you, Virginia, but most of that is for newer businesses. So for those established businesses that may want to relocate or have a major expansion, I don't think that
If
money
they
is really for
relocate,
that.
they can, as long as they move.
Well, it would be, so I think of like a Kewaunee Fab or a Bullwrap or someplace like that. If they were to move to a new place, that would be lots of money that I'm not sure that would be eligible. But
Yeah.
neither here nor there. But the smaller ones, absolutely. And I agree that there is money that people aren't taking advantage of there. But then I also agree with what Tom and what Chairman Olson are saying, is that, well, if we're reducing the amount of debt, that's 20 years of interest payments that you don't have to make on that money as well. So I'm encouraged, again, from my standpoint, is that the conversation is about those things as opposed to using money to replace stuff that should be part of our normal things. So Brown County is doing their HVACs. And if we need a new HVAC, let's just say for this building, fine, but that is something that is part of the normal course and something that therefore we should budget accordingly, not necessarily use these ARPA funds to do. Because to me, that's just normal operations, whereas Chair Master had said this is a one-time gift. So instead, let's try to use this that makes the biggest bang for the buck. And so I'm encouraged that what we're talking about are either major capital expenditures or trying to do something that does some type of economic development standpoint that could generate us some property taxes. So that's encouraging.
Is the sunset for spending still year-end 26?
Yeah. Well, you have to allocate it by year end 24, meaning we're going to spend it on this, and then it has to be fully expended by year end 26, of which I don't think we're going to have any problem with whatsoever. Because with any of those, I'm going to assume, and so let's say that we're designating it for the highway shop. Well, my suggestion to this committee and then to the board would be, well, no, what we'll do is we'll designate the money towards the jail if that's coming first, and if it's not, whichever, however we get that money and we get it expended before 26, and then if we can move shells around, I guess is what I'm trying to
When
say.
you talk about some sort of economic development, we know we have the highway shop right now. If there is a project that comes down the line that would warrant economic development, those are things that you can consider.
Mhm.
And if there is a project that is just so valuable to the county economic development wise, that is something that we can consider independently.
Correct.
The highway shop appears to be something that, we're going to be dealing with. So, get it done. There's nothing says you can't consider these other projects from other sources if they are that meritorious.
I don't know, it's kind of off the topic a little bit, but I keep getting emails from Viking Cruise that says they're coming to Kewaunee County starting in 2024. Viking Cruise, a cruise ship that's gonna pick up, it's right now, it says it's gonna pick up in Algoma, and I don't know where a boat's gonna come and pick up people in Algoma. But, you know, what? It's supposed to be it's supposed to be a no cars are gonna go on, purely passengers. That's gonna do a cruise of Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, and Lake Huron. On a long cruise, like a 4-day cruise, and it says Algoma is the pickup. It's gonna be Milwaukee, and then they're gonna, next stop is gonna be Algoma. You know, that's the kind of thing.
How
that
much
maybe-
water do they draw?
I have absolutely no idea. They just keep showing the cruise and the maps, and have you gotten that too?
Yeah,
I mean, is
I'm
that
gonna get,
something they're
They're
gonna
gonna
look
have
for
to
money
back
from
up
us?
if they come in.
nah, if they were looking for money, they would have already come to us, is how I would look at it.
Here, yes. Here, the car ferries are coming in always, so out Kewaunee, I mean, there they could turn around, but I don't know. If they're coming into the river in Algoma.
Well, and I'm going to guess that from a cruise ship, we're not talking what you now consider to be cruise ships. We're not talking about the floating cities, that it'd be more like a floating town.
But if it's the ones that run like Mackinac Island, all of those, they're pretty good sized
Yeah.
little boats.
They
there.
showed pictures of them. They look like pretty good size,
You
and
could probably put 500 on a,
it sounded like it was gonna come off the north pier,
It's not gonna be the
like
SS
right by
window.
Jeff's
No,
Motel,
no, no.
just
Gotcha,
past
yep.
there. But
Yeah.
I
More like
would
the local.
think, that would be.
I do not have,
maybe that's
you
why the
know, I do
parks
not
are
have
gonna
much
be-
information on that.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if that's what happened, that all of a sudden they got the money for the harbor too, that maybe in between, there's something to do for that,
Yeah.
but, something like
Viking-
that,
yeah,
I
Viking
could
cruise
see if they're
comes-
looking for something,
The
but.
Viking cruise comes looking for a handout, the answer is no. It'd be great to have them, but anything that we could offer to them compared to the size of the company,
It's only gonna be 12,000 to take the cruise, by the way, because they sent me the price, so.
Well,
So they should have a lot of people in
I'm
Kewaunee
gonna
County
take
lined
the
up
whole
to do it.
family at that cost. Gee,
I thought you'd actually bring some extras as well, buy some extra tickets.
well, we could take the whole board, can go on that.
But I would agree,
Board's gonna go,
if something comes up that's economic development, yeah, I would be all for it, every somebody to do that, but if not, why wouldn't we do it for a project that we know we want to do?
That's lunch
Correct.
included.
So
It makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I think we're about there, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other information? Hearing none, and you motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
All those opposed?
so if our meeting is April 8th, then,
We're
so
gonna-
it is, so
we're
if we
not
don't
gonna
get
say-
reelected, then do
We're
we
not
not show
gonna-
up on the 8th?
We won't set anything until after.
You're
You're still there until the,
Until
until the next
Okay.
board
Yeah,
meeting.
'cause it's-
You're still there until they're inducted at the,
Do you have a challenger?
Technically,
No, I
you're there
don't.
till noon on the 19th.
What?
You're in power till
Oh,
noon on the
okay.
19th.
In power.
In power.
Oh my God. We use that first, so strikingly.
This is just a question of,
sure.
their reference to taxing entities exceeding the levy limit.
Okay,
If you're proposing to exceed your levy limit, is it, you must go to the taxpayer as a referendum, or is that an
Not if
option?
Not if you're borrowing the money,
if you're,
Pardon?
not if you're borrowing the money.
so if I borrow money,
Around it.
Mhm.
I can just put that straight on to
Yep.
the tax bill. At least counties can. If I am, if it's that I'm just wanting to spend X more dollars and it exceeds, then I have to go to referendum. I am not allowed to spend that.
Is there a certain amount you can go for the levy without going to a referendum?
No, in fact, let's do it this way. I'm gonna separate between what I'll call operations and what I'll call building or debt. And I'm gonna use stark examples. If Kewaunee County wanted to go into debt for $100 million and put that on the tax roll, they can do that and they don't have to go to referendum. If they wanted to go $3 more than the operational levy limit, they would have to go to referendum for those $3. Now, and again, that's if you're exceeding your budget. Now, what you could also do, trying to think of how that, and I may be speaking wrong here. In fact, I probably am, because use of fund balances, if you're not taking additional tax dollars. So if we wanted to use $5 million of our general fund, in addition to what we have from our taxes, we can do that. Why? Because it's not affecting the tax bill anyways.
Okay, so I kind of knew that debt payments don't affect your levy.
Correct.
What if you are at your capacity to borrow?
Yeah, you're at 100% of your debt margin, right?
You know, you say you're just using round numbers.
Yep.
You got an equalized value of $100 million, and your debt limit is 5% of that.
Yeah, our debt margin for Kewaunee County is just under, let's call it $90 million.
Let's say a taxing entity is out there at or approaching their debt capacity.
Yep.
They can't borrow any more money.
Correct.
Do they then have to go to the taxpayer, or is the law clear that they can't borrow any more money?
Can't borrow any more money. What would have to happen, and you've seen this at times, is they'll go to the legislature to allow them to do X or Y. Because I have not yet heard of a municipality that has reached their debt margin limit. Now, there are plenty that get to 80 and up there, but I have not heard of one that has ever gone to 100%, which says that they can borrow no more money. Because then what will happen a lot of times is they'll lease it, so that way it's not dead, or there'll be some interesting way of financing it.
Well, I don't know, I'm trying to get information, and the more questions I ask, the less straight answers I get in reference to this safety building that they're trying to build in Algoma.
Yep. You mean 40 years, and I'll call it's 240, but I'm just gonna call it $250,000 for simplicity's sake.
So this $5 million project turns into 10+ million over 40 years.
Yeah.
I've never heard of borrowing or something like that for 40 years, but anyway.
So what's your opinion on needing sleeping quarters in the new building?
Well, for EMS, that is a new reality. Kewaunee had to do it, Luxembourg had to do it, because we're not getting the local volunteers.
Right.
So they are having to basically recruit these people from Brown County, Door County, and their camp.
Would it be that detrimental to leave the old firehouse and let the people stay there on the second floor that's already remodeled, and instead of having to build sleeping quarters in a new? I don't know.
I'll
going into
say
arguing
it
about-
this way. I'll say this, because I'm not in the middle of it. I'll say that it has been 7 years of planning this jail.
Yeah.
7 years. We haven't even gotten renditions, right? We spent a year trying to debate going into phase 3. 7 years. And all of a sudden on Facebook, I see that Algoma is at renditions. So I don't know exactly how much work or thought they put into options, because you all know the work that we put into options, right, up here in Kewaunee County. And-
taxpayer really didn't know anything
So-
about this.
So I'm a little put back. I mean, I commend them for the rate of speed of which they pursued this project. But when they say, no, we pursued all options, I don't know how they did that, unless their bureaucracy moves at a much faster pace than our bureaucracy. Because it took us years to work through those
I'm
options.
trying to get it done before the April election,
What is that?
because they know where I stand on that.
So I don't want to sabotage their project, but there's a lot of people
But I
going to
think
the
there's a
well
lot of
here.
wiggle room on what they could do differently, and,
What's wrong with sliding down that pole in the fire station? Isn't that what they always were doing? Yeah. Second floor, you slide down the pole.
They don't want, they take out poles now.
Oh, okay.
And I'm being absolutely serious. If you're wanting to do something, they'll give you a slide, they won't give you a pole.
There you go. I think
Okay,
if
so
you
we're
slide
putting a
down
twisty
those steps on the
slide.
door,
Exactly.
And you have to look at Kewaunee. Kewaunee operates out of 3 different stations.
Yeah.
You know, the old armory, a shed outside the armory, and the old building, right? There's no, I don't even know if got the elevator working yet. So there's no ADA accessibility, which is why the elderly center had to be moved from it for the purpose of the fire department.
Why?
They didn't need ADA.
Plus there's room next to the old fire station, that parking lot.
Why do you have to have ADA for a fire station? If somebody, I mean, is this Joe Swanson we're sending out on the fire trucks?
It all
I mean,
depends on
you-
what
you-
you would be using the second floor for. Because if you're using the second floor for something that is public,
Okay.
then it has to go with
But if
ADA.
you have firefighters that need to slide down
That's
the
a
pole.
different story.
I don't think-
Or you make
I don't
accommodation
think-
for ADA
I mean,
by
do we
moving your
have-
Meeting to the auditorium.
Correct.
To the city
Yes.
hall,
Yeah.
to the,
Yeah,
you know, there.
Correct.
it's
Do we
just-
have people in wheelchairs that are, you know, serving on the fire department? Is that?
Well, it's no different than when Tom was administrator, his office was upstairs, but if somebody needed to see him, Tom would come down and meet with him.
Correct.
I mean.
And
there's
I'm not
options there.
disagreeing with what you're saying at all. It's just it's just you're making sure that if you're having, then you just don't in general have public meetings up on a second floor. Because you're automatically excluding just by doing that, even though no one has asked for the accommodation, the argument could be made that you are denying them access.
On you to the point of the, you know, PD being in the basement,
Yeah.
I'm in the basement.
Yeah.
You know, my entire patrol division's in the basement.
Yeah, but you're not in a locked door either. I mean, you can come in and talk to your receptionist, right? I mean, if you walk into
Why
downstairs,
did you go
Right.
downstairs? I
you
don't know.
can, but down there, you can't talk to
Whole city
anybody.
hall around.
Oh, right. But that's a choice.
Well, sure, that's a choice, but I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't want to see anybody.
And again, and from
The
law
public
enforcement,
health.
I don't want them in the building. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you know, we look at what we operate. That's why we did all the technology with NBCs, with everything. I want them on the streets. You know, that's why we did that over a decade ago with all the technology. Let's keep those officers all able to respond. I mean, this idea of having to have workstations for each one of them, you know, I'm not in the planning process,
yeah.
but I was a little stunned when I'm like, you know, 7 years into this project and we're still really working hard to move this forward. And all of a sudden it's like, here we are.
You know, they put this letter out that the mayor sent out to everybody about this project, and he says, well, it's only gonna cost $13.95 per $1,000 of assessed value.
Mhm.
Well, the average assessed property in Oklahoma is worth a hell of a lot more than $100,000.
I know it's cost me over $300
If I
a
took
year.
my house, based on my current, oh, and by the way, they're gonna, in the next couple months, they're supposed to be reassessing the whole city, so you know your assessments, you know.
So what are they putting in this safety building? Is this?
Both PD and fire.
This is a
And
case,
EMS.
Dan,
And EMS.
this is a case where you wanna,
Fire rescue.
you want a 10-bedroom, 10-bathroom mansion, but really your budget can only afford a 3-bedroom ranch. That's what we're talking about.
You know, a good example, if you look at what we did here with the sheriff's department, right? We, and to our credit, what did we do? We started off with a $35 million project, right? Because that was the expectation. We need the sheriff's department, the evidence building, but then we had an honest conversation about what do we honestly need? And we stripped this bad boy down to just the jail. So we look up there what they need. And I'll run the numbers any day of the week, right? We look at, we have